Morning! I thought I'd just do a wee video today, mostly because it's ages since I've done one, and at least in part because I'm trying to avoid doing housework. Seems fair this time of year. I thought what we'd talk about would be how you get started organising a ceremony. So you've got a wedding or a baby naming planned, you're not really sure what you're doing, how to go about it. So I thought I'd just sort of chat you through the steps. So the first thing you would need to be doing if you're trying to find your celebrant is trying to track us down one of, I would say, two ways. So for the majority of people, if they're going to the HSS website, so that's Humanist Society Scotland, that's where you will find all of us. So we all have a profile page on there. You can find us a little bit more, see what kinds of ceremonies that we do, our availability, whether folk are prepared to travel, that kind of thing. Most of us are. So you'd be able to find us on there fairly straightforwardly. You'd also find on that website information about what the charity does more broadly as well. So you'd have things like ceremony updates and guidance, which is particularly useful at the moment because all the COVID updates are on there, and they're updated very quickly by our head office. They're good folk. You'll also find bits and pieces about our ongoing campaigns, so other things that HSS do, because I think the majority of people know us for our ceremonies, but there's a lot more to the charity than that, so you'll be able to find updates there. Also things like news and events. We've got this lovely Humankind newsletter that comes out as well, which is just full of good news, which I think we all kind of need at the moment a little bit. So that might be your first port of call if you're looking for a celebrant. It might also be that you've seen one of us out and about and you're trying to track us down. The majority of us do also have social media pages that you can suss out. So for example, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, not very high tech, so that's about as good as it gets, and I'm at Kendall the Celebrant, so we'll all have our own Humanist Society Scotland emails that you can contact, or you can try and track us down through social media and you can do that as well. I always quite liked that, having decided that I was going to be Kendall the Celebrant when I set myself up. It was only after I'd planned it all and organised it that I realised that Kendall the Celebrant sounds an awful lot like Nelly the Elephant, but I'm rolling with it now, it's grand. I was kind of thinking too about, once you get in touch, what kind of information do we need to know from you? So quite often we'll get a message going, hi, are you available on this date for this particular type of ceremony? And that's a great starter, so we can check our diaries, make sure that we're free, give you a holler back and say yep or no. What would be useful though is also a contact email address. So particularly if you're getting in touch through social media, we don't necessarily have a way other than through that source of getting back to you. So an email would be really useful, and this is particularly if we're organising a wedding chat. We're going on the theory that you're going to have a lot of emails flying back and forth with various suppliers, and they do recommend that you have an email that's specific for your wedding that you can both access. Like, that might be really useful. So if we could have an email address, that would be tremendous. We would also need to know the name of the person or people that the ceremony is going to be for. Wedding couples, we quite often get one party getting in touch and saying, right, we've got a wedding, this is the date we're planning, are you available, can you come along and give us a hand? So absolutely, who are you getting married to? It's astonishing actually how often people forget to mention their partner's name in that initial contact, so that would be really handy, please. We're also thinking about not just the date but also the venue. So for example, myself, I'm really happy to travel all over Scotland. I think the most exciting one was a very tentative booking for Orkney. I got really excited about the prospect of going on the ferry. But we would also need to know the venue. Generally speaking, when folk get in touch with us, they already have the date and the venue organised, and that tends to be the easiest way to kind of pencil us into our diaries, that sort of thing. So if you have been in touch with us, we've organised our contact details, we've got an email that suits us best. Some people prefer to phone. I quite like having everything in writing, so I'm more of an email girl. So if you're in touch with me, then I would be sending you over a starter pack. So that usually gives you a little bit more information. For namings and weddings, which I do at the moment, we've got separate starter packs that I send out. So the first part of that would be a letter explaining the process in a bit more detail. I also usually send over a breakdown of fees, which I think can be really useful. Again, particularly for wedding couples, in that there's fees that you pay to the council for your legal paperwork, and I think sometimes it's nice having that all in one place, broken down, so you can see exactly what it's going to cost you. I also send over a pack of symbolic gestures, which are what we tend to see most often at the likes of weddings and naming ceremonies. there's no obligation to use any of those at all, but I think for some people, if you're not sure about your planning, you don't really have a vision for your ceremony yet, this can be a good starting point. It might be that you decide you don't want any of those gestures at all, but it might just be enough to sort of nudge you in that direction and think, right, I don't want that, what do we want instead? So it can be a good starting point. After that, it would be a case of you saying, yeah, we want to meet up with you. At the moment, obviously, we are really curtailed in terms of what we can do, so there's a lot of digital meetings, so you would see this setup. You can see the great joy of all the artwork on the walls, and the slightly dusty back door. Don't look at that, it'll be fine. So once you've organised the meeting, we'd try and come up with a time that suits us both. Have a bit of a blether. Usually we would like to see all parties involved if that is possible. Obviously for little ones, if you've got baby namings, we can work around you. If it is a wedding meeting, then it would be really useful to meet both parties. Just so we can have a blether, you can get to see my face, I can get to know you a little bit better, we can hear about your plans and sort that through. There is absolutely no obligation to book at these meetings. It really is just making sure that this is what you would like to do. This is an opportunity just to meet one of us, to have a blether, see what you're planning, and take it forward from that point. So if at that stage you do decide that you're going to book, so what I would normally do, and again can't speak for all celebrants here, but I would usually pencil your date into my diary and I would hold it for 2 weeks after we've met, so you've got time to blether amongst yourselves and decide what you want to do. And if you decide you do want to pen that in rather than just in pencil, just give me a shout and we'd get that all organised and start that underway. If you are either for a baby naming or for a wedding, we'd then maybe organise a longer, more detailed meeting so that we can go through all the steps and we can chat you through your choices, what has to be included, what are entirely optional. If it's a wedding, we would do a bit more detail about your legal paperwork so you know what you're needing to do, and what the expectations are for that as well. So that would be a longer meeting that we would do at another point. For some couples, or for baby naming, for family meetings, and you might get in touch and we might do both meetings all in one go because you already know that you want to go ahead, and that would be tremendous, but we really can work around your own schedules there. So yeah, that's all good. So probably more of these to follow if I don't watch it back and take fright and decide that actually this is such a bad idea entirely. But yeah, if you've got any questions at all, please do get in touch. Like I say, I'm at Kendall the Celebrant on Instagram and Facebook, and you can always email us. So our celebrants, our emails are first name, second name at humanism.scot. So I'm kendall.delaney@humanism.scot, and I'll put all the information up on at the end of this video as well. So yeah, thanks. It would be lovely to hear from you. Please do get in touch if you've got a cunning plan for a ceremony. I'd love to chat to you. Ta-ra!